We're back with politics again, and Israel is set to occupy Gaza. And with me to discuss that is Mustafa and Kule Williams. You guys are welcome to another political show.
Yeah, welcome to our political show, our political gurus slash political animals, where we give you a deeper insight into what's going on. Everybody knows that Israel's going to ramp up the attack on Gaza. We know that. Nothing that's happening is new. We know that a genocide is taking place. So, but what we want to do is give the viewers an angle on what's really going on. What's the logic behind all of this? Now, the logic behind all of this is it's no secret. It's been going on. It's been known for years, and it's been wrapped up. It started with Trump coming in office first with the Abraham Accords. The goal is to clear out Gaza and to create a technocratic state, which will be held most likely by Egypt, um, UAE, and based on what I've seen lately with the Prince of Bahrain meeting Trump and getting billions of dollars and giving him contracts, Bahrain, and then the fourth nation will most likely, don't want to mention, but we know it's Saudi Arabia. These four countries are going to betray the Arabic Semitic movement by controlling, by doing America's and Israel's bid to control it, but make it look like they're helping Gaza. That's the plan. So they're going to step up the attack on Gaza as Israel's defense security, their security panel has agreed upon. And they have already said it. They said that the people in Gaza have until October the 7th to leave. They've said that no food will be put in that area so that people don't try to linger. This is what this whole starvation has been about. So people watching the show, listen carefully because we'll say, because a lot of times we say, oh, it's so evil what they're doing to the Gaza people. It's so bad. This is a heinous crime. Let's forget about that now and let's look at what the plan is. Because there's nothing happens in the world. People say AIPAC controls America. Nothing happens in the world without banks agreeing on it. Banks are very orderly entities which want to get their payback later on. So what I'm saying is that this is a plan that Trump has had since he first came in which he said all of Gaza should be resorts. That's exaggeration, but what it will be is something near to that. It's going to be a technocratic state in which if you live there as a Palestinian, you're basically just a worker, and it's going to be controlled by Israel and that panel of states. But that panel of states is doing the bit for Israel and for the U.S. Now, going back to what I was saying, the plan is to clear those guys out. Where those guys are going to go, they're going to go to encampments on the edges close to Egypt, close to the Sinai Desert. I don't know if they're going to push them all the way into the desert to perish, but they'll create deserts in which women and children can get fed, because most likely all the men will be killed or will be called Hamas and will be forced to go into exile. They're going to put these people in tents. That's why you now see Israel giving funding to people now, not funding, giving food and stuff. So, look how humanitarian we are. Yeah, we're humanitarian as long as you get out of Gaza. So that's the plan. Now, the second part of this is Trump's Abraham Accords. Yesterday, Trump said, I implore all Arabic nations to join the Abraham Accords because we've gotten rid of Iran's nuclear weapons now. We want to keep it that way. Notice that Trump made his statement about the Abraham Accords the day before Netanyahu makes his statement about ramping it up and clearing that area. Trump is trying to make it look as about Iran, but this Abraham Accord is the same thing as the plan that Israel has to build a technocratic state in the hands of UAE, Egypt, and co. Trump has said, because the Abraham Accords and the Abraham Shield says that there should be a two-state solution. So now Gaza will be a state, but it will be controlled. It will be closely controlled by technocratic forces and the Palestinian Authority. Palestinian Authority are from the West Bank, and they do whatever America says, or all they do is protest what America does and what Israel does, but they don't fight. But Hamas will play no role. So Hamas, which is the ruling entity in Gaza, will not rule that area. The PA will. And trust me, America and Israel will tell the PA how to run that area. So when you see Trump yesterday saying, let's ramp up the Abraham agreements because we need to contain Iran, and then when you see these guys say today we're attacking Israel, a lot of people won't make the connection. It's the same thing. And this is what I remember. Haven't I been saying this for weeks? The plan is to turn Israel into a technocratic state so that basically, not Israel, Gaza, so that basically it's controlled by the West. So they can continue their broader agenda of controlling the whole Middle East. And Saudi Arabia should be ashamed of itself because none of this can happen unless Saudi Arabia does this. And what Trump says yesterday is that Saudi Arabia and Israel need to move closer together to fight against Iran. But what he's really saying is to fight against Iran and also to basically colonize Palestine. What are your thoughts, Kunle Williams, about what I've said? They should give me an award because I made the connection, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's going on, and humanity cannot stop it unless there is a way that military force can be brought to bear. And even military force cannot survive, because if it was, it would be a world action. And Israel has something that they call the Samson Directive, or the Samson Project, in which if you
all of this is good, but we're not on the topic about what we're talking today, which is that this technocratic thing. But go ahead, no, continue with your line of thought. But you have a tendency to do this sometimes, man.
Sorry, I'll come back. That if you destroy Israel, that
go ahead.
That they'll
go to what you're saying. And here's the thing: what you're saying is the Samson Accord, that they'll bomb the whole world.
Yes.
Israel is. I've said this before. If the banks stop funding Israel, Israel will stop existing. So nobody can say that it's Israel holding the world at ransom. The banks are using Israel as the bad cop to make everybody think it's Israel. Israel is in line because all they have to do is stop funding them. But continue. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was going to come back to that. So that is their fail-safe. That's their death switch. Now, coming back to the main issue is that Israel already rock solid. They have the banks behind them. The only way that one can push against stopping this project that Israel has to occupy and to turn Gaza into a principality of the West as a sort of satellite neo-colonialist state. And the only way to stop that is the West itself. And it goes back to its own domestic elections and how to deal with AIPAC in the midterms and the main elections, in getting electives who are not AIPAC backed. That is the only way that it can be stopped, because you cannot stop it with force or with strength. Russia, China do not have the will or the might to stop America and Israel from doing as they please, with total amorality in respect of what they're doing, starvation and whatever. They cannot be stopped militarily. Sort of how Poland and Austria were helped.
And I don't think Russia or China care.
Yes. So the only option is for America to actually cleanse itself. It has the will, it has the numbers, has it the ability to organize itself, both MAGA on the far right and Mendani-like electors of Democrats on the left. They need to build their bases and they need to extricate AIPAC. That they both parties,
two things.
They will get a massive popular vote behind.
So two things. It's too late. Yeah, but so what will happen is you'll see a world movement which ends the genocide. But then it doesn't matter, because Israel would have already won, because everybody be like, yes, Europe has said, yes, now we have a one-state Palestine. Oh, it's a technocratic Palestine, but at least they're no longer dying. Can't you see that this is the game plan America has? So that by the time the world rebels, then Israel will say, oh, yes, we'll stop starving them. We'll stop it. And now we'll make a one-state solution in which we are overseeing it. The rest of the world will not go to war or will not fight to stop it from being a one-state solution. Do you see what I'm saying? Same thing as in South Africa. The world is not going to fight for South Africa to have equality now, as far as economic equality, so long as apartheid is over. So once the Israel apartheid and genocide is over, no problem, because America and Israel still win, because they will control that as a colonial state. And my argument is that the rest of the world won't care about them being a colonial state so long as they're not getting killed. Do you see what I'm saying, Kunle? So the West wins. And yes, the world, and it'll look like the world has stopped it. Yes, we stopped the genocide. Netanyahu was arrested, but meanwhile, the plan all day long was just to obliterate Israel, Palestine. They've done it. They've killed enough of them so that they're no longer significant, and to control it. Hamas won't have power, and Palestine will be in the hands of Israel and America, and the world won't fight for that. What do you say about that, Kunle?
In the short
term, they won't fight against that, because they will be saying at least they're not dying, so they should just be happy.
Yeah, well, in the short term, yes, that's what they'll.
You see what I'm saying?
But in the long term, you've created a culture of politics that is anti-Zionist, and that could see the downfall of Israel in the long term. They have lost. If you look at South Africa, they can be beaten. It's not impossible for the world to boycott the hell out of them and to turn them into a pariah.
Yeah, but at this point, why would they want to boycott them? They say, oh, so my argument is that there's no need to boycott Israel anymore, because Palestine is now a technocratic state. And here's the thing: when we're saying all these technical words, technocratic state, it's only people like you, me, and Afolabi and PhDs. The average human being will think, they'll say, oh, I don't know nothing about no technocratic state. PA is running Palestine. PA is a Palestinian group of people. So what I'm saying is that the world isn't educated enough to know the deeper thing that it's a colonized world country. Same thing, South Africa is still colonized, but the world doesn't know that. So what I'm saying is that only sophisticated people know that, and there's not enough of them to go against Israel. They'll even say that, wow, Israel has reformed. They've arrested Bibi, they've arrested Netanyahu and co. This is why we're doing our show, to show people the deeper nuances. But what we're saying is only going to be watched by 20 people. 200 million people or a billion people around the world will be under the delusion that everything is okay now because there's no longer going to be a war in Palestine and the PA is a state. Same thing. I'm trying to think of other countries. There are a lot of countries which are under the rule of Britain and America and have puppets. Taiwan, Panama, Philippines. I don't see people saying, "Oh, these places don't need to stop being technocratic states." Nobody has time for that. They'll just say, "Oh, no, how many people in the world know that Taiwan is an American puppet or care?" So why would they care now
South Korea, South Korea,
yeah,
and
so why
Singapore.
would they care why would they care when Palestine is a puppet country too? They won't care.
I'll tell you one interesting thing. When they remove them, not only apart from the genocide ending, within those countries, remember that those countries are suffering, like America is suffering domestic issues regarding healthcare and how management disasters happen because so much money is going to Israel. And when this money now starts falling into the hands of Americans to make them richer and fatter, and they now realize that it's not just about the Palestine and Gaza, it also affects their own home economics because their security is greater. They're not hated by so many countries because Israel is always starting.
Yeah, I agree, but by that point, Israel will no longer be an aggressive. But by that point, Israel will no longer be an aggressive nation because they've gotten what they want. That's my argument. This is a very well planned. My prediction is that there's going to be peace, and Israel will no longer be an aggressive nation because they've gotten what they want. They now control Palestine, and nobody's going to feel like it's worth it to spend American money to stop them. Because once Israel controls Palestine, Americans and maybe the U.S. stop funding Israel so much. Palestine won't fight back. So the rest Americans will say, why should we care about Palestine being liberated when it doesn't affect our pocketbooks anymore?
Yeah,
the time in which they should
have. But the world would turn and be reviled. There's a revulsion.
Since when has let's look at what happened with let's look at what happened with World War II. Let's look at what happened with World War II. The Germans killed 6 million Jews. After World War II was over and Germany was I don't see the world turning on Germany. Human beings don't turn on you once it's over. They won't say, "Oh, look what Israel did." Because if that's the case, why doesn't the world turn on America, which has done the most crimes? Slavery, colonialization. America, Britain. Why hasn't the world turned on them? And they are the number one perpetrators.
First, Japan as well. Those, Israel has to be fully defeated. If they're not fully defeated,
but they don't have to. But Israel doesn't have to be defeated because Israel is an extension of America, and they've already accomplished it. What are we going to defeat Israel from doing now? They've already done what they want. They've won. It's over. This war is going to de-escalate very soon because it's over. Israel has won, so they don't have to. They don't have to. And if they capitulate, their capitulation will be like, okay, now we agreed to do a ceasefire. That's going to be their capitulation. But they can do the ceasefire because now they hold the country. It's like me beating up my neighbor and I keep beating him and they say, Mustafa, stop. I'll say, I'm stopped anyway because now I own the house. The world is not going to make Israel give full solidarity and sovereignty to Palestine. They just want them to stop killing them, which they will do. What are your thoughts, Afolabi?
I'm just looking at the practicality of this whole operation because it appears that Israel can sometimes be deluded. They can be a victim of some of their past military operation, which they always perceive will be successful. How do you ethnically cleanse 2 million residents from Gaza? This is going to be an internal displacement of astronomical proportions. How do they intend to carry it out? It's going to be a big mess. And I think assuming the assumption that Egypt and Jordan would partner to take over Gaza under Israel's oversight might not be right. They may not be willing to do that. So the operation on one side looks fantastic, but the practicality.
Well, here's the thing: they've already depopulated the area by bombing it. They've done the amount of bombing that Israel has done on Gaza is 5 times more than the nuclear bombs dropped on 500 times more than the bombs dropped on Japan. So they've cleared it. So there's no buildings anymore. That means if you want to stay there, you have to stay in without shelter. So women and children will flee to wherever the food is. They're going to put food in the desert, in the Sinai desert. They're going to put it in the periphery, so long as the main insular area of Gaza is owned. So what will happen is just like in Lagos where you have CBD, the central part of
there'll be
Gaza.
an outflux of refugees into neighboring countries.
Yeah. It's going to be a disaster. And that's why I say these countries like Jordan and Egypt are stupid. It's going to affect it. There's also going to be an influx of people finding their way to Morocco and into Europe. And there's going to be future terrorism. So yes, this thing is not going to be a clean transition at all.
It won't be a clean transition.
And you're right.
And this is all about Netanyahu. A lot of the top brass.
But it goes deeper than that. I believe that the banks are involved in this. Netanyahu's been in power in Israel for like 30 years. What I mean by power, in and out. And he keeps coming back. We have to find out who's funding Netanyahu. I'm telling you, it's American banks, American and Jewish banks.
Some of his generals are against this operation, really.
Because here's the thing. There's a lot of money being made in America, like the area where I live in. People buy $1.6 million houses. Can you imagine? And that's considered to be low end. Their houses for $4 million. So this type of wealth that you see in Washington, D.C. is based on American imperialism and on what they're doing with war. They profit off of war. So even though war is not sustainable, there are a few people in the world who don't care what happens to everybody else. Because when the world falls apart, they'll go to the mountains in Davos, Switzerland, while we all die. So what I'm saying is that World War II was funded on both sides by Rothschild. So these people that run the banks and control the world and have all of us going to work, have all of us paying our bills and watching their commercials are invested in this model, which won't work. And by the time we find out what's going on, we'll be in a dark age. What are your last thoughts, Afalabi? Then we'll end with Kunle.
Yeah,
we'll continue this. We're going to talk about this more tomorrow. Go ahead. Yeah.
Netanyahu's psychological and mental state, really, it is describing him as being dangerous. Nobody can restrain him. And all what is playing out now is directly affecting America, the next elections, and so many other things. So it has
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, and it has put Trump in a very difficult situation, although he's supporting everything. What does it take Donald Trump to just cut funding to Israel? Because all these military operations are based on the premise that they will continue to get money from U.S.
Here's what I believe. If Donald Trump says cut funding, he would be assassinated. And the reason I say so is because the American president doesn't call the shots. The banks do. America assassinated Kennedy when he said end the Vietnam War. And then, so I think that's the main problem.
The Jews control the banks.
Yeah, and the bank, and the banks themselves. And what the Jews are is Zionists. What a Zionist really is Eastern Europeans. That's basically it. And or guys like, where are the Rothschilds from, Kunle? Switzerland or somewhere?
The Rothschilds.
I think they're from Switzerland.
Yeah. So this is why, once again, people laugh at me. I keep saying socialism is the answer. We can't continue having this banking capitalist system because it's not working. Or it's working, but it's leading to a lot of death and struggling. Each country needs to control its resources the way China does. China is not run by banks. It has a central bank, but the central bank is for the People's Republic and for the People's Army. So I would rather see, I hate to say it, countries that are run by military rather than run by banks. Then the military controls the bank for the good of the people. What are your thoughts, Kunle?
Yes, actually, as Mustafa said, America and Israel are going to get what they want out of this war, and there is nothing that anyone can do. It's sort of like a greedy fat kid carrying ice cream from someone and sitting in a corner and laughing and eating it, whilst everybody else is powerless to do anything on that child with anger and disdain. The only way that this can be stopped cannot be stopped violently, but from within, politically, within the political system and the people of America and the West, who will have to find a way to vote out this cancer from their policy in order to survive in the new world that is going to be the 21st century. Or they're going to see the world move towards China and Russia as the main moral leaders. Because when you lead with morality, that is what gives you power in the world now, not just power. A lot of power comes with respect.
A shift from imperialism.
So even if Russia is not as powerful, And even if China is not as powerful, if the world decides that that is where world morality has moved to, then America and Israel will pay the price ultimately for what they've done.
China has more, I call it hard power. You know what's more powerful than military weapons? Controlling the world's economy. That's the real hard power. China has that. And Russia along, do you know that Russian grains are the ones that feed Africa, which is sad. When the Ukraine war started, the price of bread rose in Nigeria. The price of oil, cooking
wheat,
oil. So
wheat as
so
well.
Russia and Ukraine control the most. So what I'm saying is America and Europe have military power, but Russia and China have logistical and resource power in alignment with the global South, because like you said, they see that those countries are moral. They're not immoral because they honor their trade agreements. America doesn't honor trade agreements. It just tells you we're going to put some dictators in your country and cause millions of people to die and then take your resources. So yeah, so the point that you had was good, Kunle. So take us out with the last few words, Kunle, then Afolabi will take us out for good.
So
Afolabi is the final solution.
to the Jewish problem.
Yeah.
So the most successful empires, such as the Pax Romani, relied on basic justice to the common man, which is failing America and Israel. And that is why we don't see what they're doing as sustainable, although in short term they will achieve those goals. However, I do believe that in the long term it will backfire on them. That is my view. And from myself, Afolabi, I do bid you farewell. Please like and subscribe, and adieu. We'll see you on the next one.
All right, thank you. Afolabi will take us out tomorrow.
All right, no problem.
Nice one.